What's going on, guys? So, I recently saw a movie over the weekend, and it's a movie that just recently came out. I think it came out in November. I didn't hear too much about it, to be honest. Before I went to go see it, I saw the trailer maybe one time, and I don't even think it was the full trailer. But I saw it, and I saw who was in it, and I was like, ooh, that looks interesting. I want to see that. But I never had anyone to go with because two of my friends are in college. One of my friends works and is very busy, and my mom works also. So I was like, I'm never gonna get to see this movie. I guess I'll just wait until it comes out. Until I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, oh yeah, we can go see it. And I was like, cool. So the movie I'm talking about is SALTBURN. And if you've seen the movie, you're now probably thinking, why would you go to see that with your mom? I asked myself the same thing after we saw it, because I went into this movie knowing absolutely nothing about it, which is usually something I don't do. I usually, like, if I'm interested in a movie, I'll watch the trailer and be like, oh my god, this seems good, I want to go see it. But I barely knew anything about this movie, but I was still interested in it for some reason, so I was like, let's go see it. Yeah, seeing it with my mom was definitely a mistake, but we both enjoyed it, I think, or at least I enjoyed it, and she said it kept her interest, so I'll take that. That's a win in my book. I saw the movie twice, actually. I saw it once with my mom, and then the next day I was hanging out with my friend Astrid, and I was telling her about it, and she was like, well, when's the next showing? And I was like, let's go. So we went to go see it again. So I saw the movie twice, and I enjoyed it both times. Did it get any less disturbing the second time? No. But, you know, it's just crazy. So I decided, since I enjoyed it so much and there's so much to talk about when it comes to this movie, I would do a review on it, because it's just a lot and I need to talk about it, because I could slowly feel it consuming me and becoming a hyperfixation, because I think about it all the time. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I saw it. So, which I think is a universal feeling. I've seen people say, like, once they saw it, they were like, I don't remember what life was like before I saw this movie. And I'm like, I'm right there with you. Like, I just genuinely can't. So, yes, I typed up some notes. I did it on my phone this time because I think it's just easier to do it on my phone. So, yeah. I think that's all I have to say for this intro. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So before I just say anything about this movie, I know this is a fairly new movie and not everybody has seen it. So if you haven't seen this movie, there will be spoilers. This is your warning right now. So if you don't want the movie to get spoiled for you, leave, and then once you see it, come back and watch this video. But if you don't mind spoilers, or you want to know what you're getting into before you see it, feel free to hang out, stay around, because I am here to educate anybody who wants to learn about this movie. So this is a film by Emerald Fennell. I hope I said her name right. I hate when I get people's names wrong because I feel so bad about it, but yes, she is the director of this film, and she did an excellent job. This movie was so good and interesting and just crazy. Like, I can't say enough about it. This movie was very good. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It is really good. I want to talk about our characters for a second, and I'm only gonna, like, right now talk about our two main characters, which is Oliver and Felix. So our main character, Oliver, is played by Barry Keoghan. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. But yeah, it's played by him. And Felix is played by Jacob Elordi. When I saw the trailer, I saw that both of these actors were in the movie, and I automatically knew it was going to be great because they're both very good actors. I first saw Barry in Dunkirk, but I always forget that he's in Dunkirk. So whenever I think of him, I think of Eternals, because that is the movie I remember seeing him in, like, first. He was so good in Eternals, and I love that movie, to be honest. And Jacob, I first saw Jacob in Euphoria. I don't think I saw him in anything before that. or I just remember him from Euphoria. I think that's where a lot of people remember him from. So I already knew that these two actors were very, very good at their job, and I knew they were going to do an amazing job. So going into this movie, I already said I knew very minimal about it, and what I expected to get from this movie, I expected it, and my friend said the same thing, I expected it to be some type of tragic love story kind of thing, like, and that is definitely how the movie started out. Like, it gave the vibe of like a tragic love story, kind of like, in my opinion, it gave me vibes of Call Me By Your Name, minus the age gap, but it gave me vibes of that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good, like, this is gonna freaking devastate me. And it devastated me in a way that I didn't expect it to devastate me. But moving on, in the beginning of this movie, we meet Oliver Quick, and he is a Oxford student. He is new to this college, he just got here, and he doesn't have any friends, he doesn't know anybody. He makes friends with this one kid, and I forget his name, but if you see the movie, you know who I'm talking about. And he doesn't really become friends with him, like, he doesn't want to be friends with him, it's very clear, but he doesn't really have anyone else to talk to. And he sees this popular kid who is Felix Canton, I think is how you say their last name, I'm not sure, but he sees Felix and he immediately becomes obsessed with him. Like, he wants to be friends with him so bad, and he doesn't really know how, because he's like the popular kid and Oliver is like this nerdy, kind of like off to the side, lonesome kid. So on his way to the library one day, he sees Felix on the side of the road, and he looks defeated, and his bike is like on the ground. So he turns around and goes to ask him if he's fine, like, okay. He's like,
you all right?
Yeah, I've got a flat tire.
So Oliver's like,
look, I'm not really going anywhere, just taking these back to the library. Take my bike.
And Felix is like so internally grateful for him, because he's like, has to get to class.
Fuck, that's kind. Are you serious? Oliver, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Seriously. Okay. Thank you so much, mate.
So he takes his bike and leaves. So, like, I'm not really sure the timeline, but I'm gonna say like maybe a day or two later, Oliver is at the pub with his friend, and he leaves to go to the bathroom and asks him to get him another pint of beer. So Oliver goes up to the bar to get him another pint, and Felix sees him, and he calls him over, and he tells his friends, like, this is my lifesaver, he lent me his bike so I can get to class. And all of his friends are like, oh, that's so cute, like, thanks. His friends are so annoying. So he tells him to sit down, and then his friend comes back, and Felix is like, oh, I'm sorry, were you with a friend? And this is so wrong, but Oliver, looks at him, he's like, no, he was just leaving, and he sits with the popular crew. So it's kind of sad, because the other guy, like, he had good intentions, he was just a little weird, but, it was kind of sad. I was like, oh, why would he do that? Because I know if someone did that to me, I would feel bad. So yeah, so we start to see Oliver and Felix's friendship evolve. They spend more time together, they like go to parties together, and we slowly start to see Oliver's look change. Like, when you first see Oliver, he's very nerdy, I guess. Like, in my opinion, he dresses like a dad, he wears his glasses, he doesn't smoke, he drinks, but he doesn't smoke, I don't think he drank before that either, because I don't remember seeing him drinking with his friend. But anyways, so as he's hanging out with Felix and these other people, he starts to smoke, he starts to drink, he doesn't wear his glasses, his style kind of changes a little bit. So obviously him hanging out with these people starts to change him. And we see Felix trying to get to know Oliver, and Oliver is kind of closed off, and he's like asking him about his family and what they're like, and Oliver eventually tells him that his home life isn't the best.
My parents, they've got problems.
What do you mean problems?
His mom is an addict, and his dad is a drunk, and they always fight, and like, it's just really bad. So Felix like feels bad for him. He's like, oh, you're like a proper like inspiration, you're an inspiration, like, that's really strong of you to like have to go through that. So one day after Felix and Oliver, they didn't really have a fight, but they just kind of had a dispute, and they hadn't talked for a few days. Oliver gets a call from his mom, and we don't hear the conversation between them, but in the next clip, he goes to Felix's dorm room, and he's crying, and Felix asks him what happened, and he tells him that his father died. So he asked him how it happened, and he said he cracked his head on the pavement, probably because he was drunk or whatever. So, because Felix tells him, he's like, you have to go home, you can't take exams. And Oliver tells him, he's like, you don't understand, like, this school, this is all I have. I can't just go back home, like, I'm not like you. So after all the exams are done, Felix takes Oliver to this bridge where there's a lake or a pond or a body of water under a bridge. And he tells him his family has this tradition where when someone dies, they write their name on a rock, and they might, say a few words or pray or just have a moment of silence, and then they chuck the rock into the body of water. And he tells Oliver this, and then he immediately feels like embarrassed. He's like, oh, this feels kind of dumb now. And Oliver's like, no, it's not dumb. Like, I appreciate this. Like, thank you. So he, gives him the rock, and they like have a moment of silence, and he throws the rock into, well, he tries to throw the rock into the water, and it ends up going to like the side, like not in the water. So yeah, that was just like a really sweet thing. I was like, oh my gosh, like he really trusts Oliver with like this information, because like that was just really sweet, So after this, they talk, and he asks him if he's gonna go back home for summer break, and Oliver tells Felix,
I don't think I'll ever go home again.
and he's like, well, what about your mom? And he's like, he tells him this story that one day when his mom was drunk or on drugs or something, his father told him he had to make her vomit, because if he didn't, she would pass away. So Felix hears this, and he's like, feels really bad for him. So he tells him,
Well, why don't you come home with me? Come to SALTBURN.
and at first Oliver's like, no, like that's weird, I don't want to impose on your family. And he's like, no, genuinely come stay with me. He's like, my mom has people come and stay like months at a time, all the time. He's like, and if you don't feel like you want to stay, then you can leave. So Oliver eventually takes him up on the offer, and he gets to his house, and once he gets there, he quickly realizes that him and his family are very rich and fortunate, because their house is freaking huge. Like, they live in a castle. And then after that, he gets unpacked. Someone unpacks for him, and he meets his family, his dad, Felix's dad, his mom, his sister, his cousin, who he already knew. He met his cousin Farley at university at Oxford, and they quickly did not get along. So he meets Oliver meets Felix's family, and you could tell they're a bit odd. They're just strange people.
Hello, Oliver, darling. Oh, what beautiful eyes. Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, I told you it wasn't a minger.
Oh, but darling, you're kind about everyone. You can't be trusted.
And I feel like that's how it always is in movies. It's like the rich people are like the weirdest, oddest people on the planet. I don't know why, but that's just how it always seems to be. While Oliver is there, the family quickly warms up to him, and they accept him. All of them except for Farley, who just does not like Oliver at all. He's like, I don't even know why he's here. He's just weird. I don't like him. So while Oliver's staying there, he quickly gets adjusted and comfortable there, and like spends time with them a lot. They just do a lot of things together. So eventually Oliver gets into an entanglement with Vanita. I think that's how you say her name, who is Felix's sister. Vanita is a very interesting character. She is, like I said, all of them are strange, but she just seems to be like the strangest of them all. Like, in my opinion, she is a show-off. She likes to flaunt around and like put herself on display for people. Like at the beginning, when Oliver first met Elsbeth, who is Felix's mom, she said that Vanita had been like lounging around the house waiting for Oliver to see her. So we already know that she is a showboat and likes to flaunt herself onto people and like be seen. One night she is in her nightgown and she's outside, which she seems to do a lot. She just sits outside and like looks at the moon. But on this particular night, she is in her nightgown right underneath Oliver's window, like sitting on a bench. So Oliver goes outside and he confronts her. He's like, you're underneath my window, like with a nightgown on. And she's like, well, it's my house, I can do whatever I want. And at this moment, I mean, it's not hard for me to predict movies, but in this moment it just seemed like the switch between the sweet, innocent introvert Oliver from college vanished, and this Oliver was so confident and direct and like almost dominant in a way, and it just took me by surprise. 'Cause I was like, what happened to the little like shy kid that was at college? Like, this is not the Oliver that I remember. Yeah, they're talking, and he tells her that he knows that she's basically anorexic because she'll eat at the dinner table and then she'll get up and leave, and he knows that she's going to the bathroom to, you know. So he tells her that tomorrow at breakfast he wants her to eat something and not leave the table, and it's just crazy. And he's like, do you understand? And she's like, yes. So yeah, they end up doing some things that I'm just gonna talk about all the extra like things at the end, because like some crazy stuff happened in this movie, so we'll talk about that at the end. And the next day at the at the breakfast table, Felix is obviously irritated about something. Nobody really seems to notice except Oliver. So while at the breakfast table, Elsbeth, Felix's mom, asks Oliver if he wants a birthday party because she wants to throw a party for him. And he's like, what kind of party? And she's like, I don't know, just whatever you want to do. We can invite like 100 or 200 people. So he's like, okay, yeah, sure, we could throw, me a party. Like, that seems fun. So later that day, Oliver goes to find Felix, and he's by the pool, or I don't know if he's by the pool, but he's like sunbathing, and he confronts Felix, and he's like,
Is everything okay?
Yes. Why?
You seem annoyed about something.
Not annoyed about anything. It's just slightly bad form, that's all. Getting with Venetia, Ollie. Just fucking cringe, mate. I mean, really, you're my friend. You're supposed to be here with me.
And Oliver quickly comes up with a lie.
I didn't want to embarrass Venetia. I saw her outside and I went down to see was she okay, and I think she got the wrong end of the stick because she tried to kiss me and I politely stirred her away.
And Felix is like, well, Farley told me that that's not what happened. And he's like, you believe him? Like, Farley is, he likes to stir the pot. He likes to cause drama. And Venita was hammered. Like, she was drunk, so she probably doesn't even remember. So Felix obviously believes him. He's like, oh my God, thank God. Like, I thought we were going to have another Eddie situation. And Eddie was his best friend that he brought home for the summer one year. And he got with Venita, and it just made their relationship or friendship awkward. And they weren't friends anymore. So while we're talking about entanglements, one day they have a dinner, and I don't know what the dinner is for exactly, but they just invite a bunch of people and a bunch of Felix's father's friends. And at the end of the night, they start doing karaoke, and it's so stupid. That scene is funny. If you've seen the movie, you know that with the scene I'm talking about, but that scene is very funny. Oliver confronts Farley, and he tells him that he knows he hates him, and Farley tells him he doesn't, but we all know he does. And he's like, if you ever, need my help with anything, if you want me to talk to your family about anything, just let me know. It's basically like offering an olive branch, and Farley like kind of acts like he accepts it. He's like, okay. Then this scene kind of doesn't make sense. Like, it does make sense to me, but at the same time it doesn't. And I talked to my mom about it. She was like, yeah, it didn't really make sense to me either. So if anyone's seen the movie and you want to explain the scene down in the comments, please do, because I would love to hear someone else's interpretation of it. But it's the scene where Farley puts on a song for Oliver to sing to on the karaoke machine, and I forget the name of the song. Hold on. It's the song Rent by the Pet Shop Boys. And I guess it's basically talking about like how this other person, like the guy singing it loves this person because they take care of them, they pay his rent, they, do all of these things for him. And Farley, I think my interpretation of it is Farley purposefully picked this song for Oliver because he thinks that's how he thinks of Felix, that Felix takes care of him, and he like feeds, or maybe his family in general, like they feed him, they took him in, they let him stay there for the summer because they feel sorry for him because of his home life. And everyone seems to notice. Like, everyone, the tension in the room gets really thick, and everyone stops dancing, everyone stops talking, and Oliver seems to notice too. And in the moment, I was like, what is happening? I don't understand. Like, but I think now I get it, but I don't know. I still might be wrong. So if you know, let me know down in the comments. But everybody seems to notice, and Felix kind of calls Farley out on it. He's like, stop, why are you doing this? And he's like, what? Like, I didn't do anything. So then Oliver is like, oh, it's your song too, Farley, come finish it. And he's like, well, if you insist. And he goes to finish the song. So then later that night, not Felix, Oliver goes to Farley's room and has another entanglement with Farley, and we'll talk about that later. Then the next day after that whole thing happened, Farley gets thrown out by his family, by, you know, Felix's mom and dad. And apparently he has sent an email to somebody, I don't remember, a chairman or somebody, asking for something, and he shouldn't have done that because, like, this chairman knows Felix's father. And I don't know, that, like, the whole details on that are kind of foggy to me, but yeah, Farley did something he shouldn't have done, and it got him thrown out of the house. So skipping ahead to Oliver's birthday. On the morning of Oliver's birthday, Felix is already up, and Oliver gets up and goes to the bathroom, and he's like, oh, happy birthday, birthday boy. He's like, I have a surprise for you. I'm taking you on a trip. And Oliver's like, where are we going? He's like, it's a surprise, but wear something nice. So they get dressed and are going on this trip, and they're like having fun listening to music. And when they get closer to the destination, Oliver is like, well, how far away are we? He's like, well, not far at all. So Oliver starts to notice the location, and like, it's familiar, and we learn that Felix is taking him on a trip to see his mom. Oliver quickly gets upset and anxious. He's
What
like,
have you done? I just thought that maybe I could help.
Felix is like, well, your mom has been calling you, and she didn't know where you were, and you know, she seems sober. She seemed like she cleaned up her act, and I want you to fix this. Like, I'm here with you. I want you to fix this. And Oliver begs Felix not to take him, and he's like, I'm not taking no for an answer. Like, we're gonna fix this, and I'm gonna be here with you. So they pull up to his house, and it's a really nice neighborhood. Like, it's not, you know, upper class, but it's not lower class either. It's like a nice neighborhood. It's a nice house. So he pulls into the driveway, and Oliver asks Felix to, like, he's like, let me go in without you. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving you. Like, you're my friend. I want to be there for you. So they go up to the door, and he rings the doorbell, and his mom comes out, and she looks normal. And I'm not saying that, like, drug addicts can't look normal, but usually when you see somebody who's been on drugs, you can tell that they've been on drugs. And this lady looks like she's never seen a drug in her actual life. Like, she's healthy, she's so sweet, she's just, you know, normal. And Felix immediately picks up on this, and he's like, what? And so she greets Oliver, and she's like, I'm so happy to see you, like, you've grown up, I haven't seen you in so long, like, I'm glad you're alive, blah blah blah. And Oliver is just visibly uncomfortable, like, because he knows he's been caught in a lie. And so then his mom is like, oh, I'll go get your father, he's in the garden. And Felix is like, father? And she's like, yeah, he's so excited, he's been, you know, anxious all morning, he's so excited to see you. So she goes to get him, and it's very, you know, clear now that Oliver has lied about his home life, about his mom and dad being an addict and a drunk. So they stay for a while, and Felix is, you know, chatting it up with his mom and dad. He's like, they're telling Felix everything. They're like, yeah, he was just so smart. His school didn't know what to do with him. He's the top scholar at Oxford. He's like, wow, like, Oliver's just so modest. I had no idea. And then they talk about Oliver's siblings. And at the beginning of the movie, Oliver had told Felix that he was an only child. So Felix was like, Oliver, you told me you were an only child. And Oliver's like, no, I always talk about my sisters. And Felix is like, yeah, well, I must have just forgot. So we see that Oliver starts to get worked up because he knows he's been caught in a lie, and he's just like, this was not supposed to happen. So he, like, randomly gets up, and he's like, oh, I got this migraine, we need to go, we need to get back to my party, you know, at the house. Oliver's mom gets upset, and his dad is like, no, Oliver, your mom spent all morning making lunch, like, why are you acting like this? And Felix is like, no, we could stay, like, Oliver, you know, take a pill, it's not that serious. So once they get back to Felix's house, Oliver tries to explain to him why he lied, and and Felix is just like, you're crazy. Like, why would you lie about something like that? Like, my family took you in, like, we fed you, we clothed you, like, why? There was no reason to lie. And Oliver's just like, I just wanted to be your friend. And I'm like, bro, what? I'm like, why would you think that if you told him the truth, he wouldn't be your friend? Like, because Felix is just the sweetest person ever. Like, even though he's in with the popular group, he just doesn't seem like the person to judge people based on their... Obviously, he doesn't judge people based on their life, because he took Oliver in even when he told him that his mom and dad were an addict and a drunk. So even if he told him the truth, he still would have accepted him and been his friend. So, I don't know. But Felix tells Oliver, he's like, I think it's best after your party that you leave, and I'll just see you at school. And Oliver's like, we can still be friends, right? He's like, I don't know. Like, you're just weird. I don't know why you would lie about something like that. During Oliver's party, there's so many people in this house. Everyone's drinking, everyone's dancing, and he's trying to find Felix. And once he finds him, he's like in the bathroom with all these other people, and they're doing drugs. And he tries to talk to him and like tell him like, we need to talk, I need to talk to you. And Felix is like, bro, just leave me alone. Like, I genuinely just don't want to talk to you right now. Later on, Oliver runs into Farley, and he's like, why are you even here? Didn't they kick you out? And he's like, yeah, but they invited me to the party. He's like, because this... And Farley is so crazy, because he always thinks that he's like one step ahead of Oliver. Yeah, no. He's like, yeah, this is my life, and like, this is gonna be something you hold on to forever and like tell your kids about, and you'll never let it go, because this is your once in a lifetime like opportunity, or once in a lifetime thing that happened to you. Later on, Oliver sees Felix going into their garden maze with this girl, so he follows him because he's trying to like trap him in the maze so that they can talk. So once he finds him at the middle of the maze, he confronts him, and the girl that he was with was like, oh my god, you guys are so weird, and she leaves. And Felix is like, bro, why don't you just leave me alone? Like, I genuinely don't want to talk to you anymore. And Oliver gets upset, and he's like, I gave you what you wanted. Like, literally everybody puts on a show for you all the time because they think you're cool. He's like, I just gave you what you wanted. I put on a show for you. And Felix is like, bro. He's like, you genuinely need help. And he's like, no, I just want to be your friend. He's like, doesn't this show how much of a good friend I am? Like, I know you so well. And he's like, I just can't. Like, you literally just made this whole situation weird. Like, I can't be friends with you. While they're there, Oliver is drunk. Oliver's drunk, so he has a like bottle of champagne, I think, in his hand, and he gives it to Felix, and he's like about to be sick, so he gives the bottle to Felix and goes over to the side to throw up. So while he's doing that, Felix takes a drink from the bottle, and then after he's done, he tells Oliver, he's like, I think you should go to bed. He's like, I don't really care what you think anymore. So he takes the bottle and leaves. So this is where things start to get like so crazy. Like there was other crazy, much more crazier things that happened before this, but you know, this is where it starts to get like kind of the climax. So the next morning after the party, Oliver is woken up by people screaming Felix's name, and he's like, what is happening? So he gets up to go see what's happening, and everybody's looking for Felix. Like, there's like Farley and Vanita are in the water, like looking for his body. Like, everyone's running around looking for him. And eventually his mom, Felix's mom, goes to the maze and finds Felix's dead body, and she screams, and everybody goes to like see what happened, and they see that Felix is dead. So once they, you know, gotten themselves together, they go into the house, and they're like, it's lunchtime, you know, let's have lunch together. So while they're having lunch, all the people, like the police and the people to take his body away, get there, and this family, it's very clear, in my opinion, it's very clear to me that Felix was the glue holding this family together. Because, yeah, like, any family would be distraught if one of their family members got, you know, killed, or they found him dead. Like, that is very, very traumatic. But, like, to me, it just seemed like Felix was that glue that held the family together, because like they all just loved him so much and they were so distraught by his death. They're having lunch together, and the people, or their butler, keeps coming in and asking them like, oh, like they're getting lost in the maze, can I send a gardener? And then once they get his body, they're like, he asks, can I close the curtains, because they're bringing his body, you know, and they're like, yes, just close the curtains. So even the butler is like very upset by his death, which is like why, again, I say Felix was the glue that held that family together, because everybody just loved him so much because he was just such a sweet person. So he's having trouble closing the curtains, and he eventually gets them closed. And it's so, this scene, I'm sorry, the cinematography in this film is so good, which is another reason why I love it so much. Like the shots and like all of the colors were so vibrant. It was just, the cinematography of this is so good, and that's another reason why I love this. But this specific shot of this scene, when the curtains close, the curtains are red, so once they close and the sun is shining on the red curtains, the room turns red. And it is just such a good shot. Like, it really, like, I don't know, describes the mood of the scene. So they hear the people coming to take Felix's body away, and it's just eerily silent because it's so quiet. And they try to make conversation to distract themselves, but it's just like inevitable that they can't. So after this, Farley gets up and he's like, may I be excused? Like, I just can't. And Felix's father, Sir James, is like, no, we haven't finished lunch, like, sit down. And Farley is like, what is the point of doing all of this? Like, there's literally no point. Felix is dead. Like, how are we supposed to act normal? So at this point, Sir James like loses it and he screams at Farley. He's like, sit down, like, you're not the only one that has feelings. He's like, nobody wants your American feelings, which is interesting. It is so interesting that he said that, because earlier in the movie, Farley expressed to Felix that Farley came to live with them because him and his mom was like kind of a disgrace because she went to America to find a lover, and I guess that was frowned upon. So his mom is like poor, and he was telling Felix that like his mom is gonna lose everything, and Felix is like, no, my dad just wants her to like find her own way, like he doesn't want to baby her. And he was telling him that this feels very racially motivated because Farley is the only black one in their family. Everybody else in the house is white. He's the only, well, he's biracial, but you know, like he's the only one that is not white in the family. So it was very interesting when he's like, nobody wants your American feelings. I was like, ooh, you just showed your true colors. That's kind of crazy. Even though he was paying for his education, it just seemed like, wow, you didn't have to say that. But during this scene, Oliver's trying to like, I guess, distract them with conversation. So he tells them, he's like, I think the pie is delicious. And this is when Farley really zones in on Oliver. He's like, why is he still here? Like, does anybody else think it's weird that he's still here? Like, he's not even a part of the family. And Oliver quickly shuts this down, and he tells the family that Farley was the one that brought the cocaine to the party last night, which I'm assuming is how Felix died, maybe. He tells the family, and they're like, oh my god, is that true? So then once they find out it's true, he throws Farley out, and he's like, you will never get anything from this family again. Like, you're banned. You're not allowed to set foot in this house. You're not allowed to see us anymore. So Farley gets thrown out and he leaves. And later that day, Oliver walks in on Vanita taking a bath, and he's like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. And she is very obviously distraught by Felix's death, so she is always drinking. Like, she's drinking and smoking and stuff. And she accuses Oliver of tearing their family apart because he's just a stranger. because he's like, you're not even supposed to be here. Like, you have nothing to do with us. You're literally a stranger in this house. Like,
I think you're a moth. Quiet, harmless, drawn to shiny things.
the next day, after that whole conversation and that scene, she's found dead in the bathtub because she committed, they find her dead, and then they have her funeral. And after that, Sir James asks Oliver to meet him in his study, and he asks him when he's gonna leave to go home, because he feels like the family needs to grieve in private. And Oliver is like, I understand why you want me to leave, but I just don't think I can. Like, I can't leave Elsbeth in this state, you know, she needs me. And Sir James is like, what are you talking about? So he offers him money, and he's like, how much will it take for you to leave and never talk to my family again? And Oliver's like, why are you doing this? He's like, because everybody needs to move on, and you being here is not really helping the grieving process. So Oliver reluctantly takes the money and leaves. After this, we jump to many years later, because the beginning of the movie was set in 2006, and we jump to many years later when Sir James, Felix's father, died in 2022. And I'm like, gosh, that was a really big like jump in time. Once we have this jump, Elsbeth, Felix's mother, runs into Oliver at a coffee shop, and she is surprised to see him. She's like, oh my gosh, like, you're so grown up. I'm so happy to see you. And he's like, yeah, I'm happy to see you too. And she tells him that she bought a flat a few miles from the coffee shop. And she, you know, tells him everything that she didn't get to tell him before he left. And she's like, I hate the way my husband treated you before you left. And she's like, but you remember he wasn't in his right mind. And Oliver's like, yeah, no, I definitely, I understand. So then she invites him to come up to Saltburn so they can talk. And she's like, well, the coast is clear now, so you can come back to Saltburn and we can talk about things. So once she invites him to Saltburn, he goes, and he ends up staying there with her. And not too long after this, she falls ill. During the movie, while they're telling the story of him in college and with Felix, they're cutting back and forth to him in the future and him in the present. So now, while he's taking care of Elsbeth, this is now the future that they were showing before, if that makes sense. So, sorry if you hear my dogs. We find out that once we find out that Elsbeth has fallen ill, Oliver was the one taking care of her, and he has been telling her the story of everything that happened between him and Felix and him and Venita and everything that happened. So we find out that Oliver was the one that set everything up. He set up Felix's death, he set up Venita's death, he made it so that Farley got kicked out. The only death that he didn't really plan is Sir James, which that happened naturally. So, and then we find out how he even got in with the family was a setup. Like, the way he became friends with Felix, when Felix's bike had a flat tire, he set that up. He poked the hole in Felix's tire. That's how he got in with Felix. It's just I honestly genuinely love psychological thrillers so much, because and it's meant to do this, so it's like doing its job well, but it messes you up so bad. I felt the same way. Sorry, getting sidetracked. I felt the same way when I watched Don't Worry Darling, because that's a psychological thriller, and it just messed me up. Like, it makes you question reality. Like, it makes you question who you talk to, like, who you trust, who you should trust. Like, oh, psychological thrillers are so good, bro. But we find out that all of that was planned, and he ends up, like, Elsbeth was already ill, but he ends up killing her and, like, taking her, because she was on a breathing machine, and he takes her off the breathing machine and kills her. And we find out before she died, she left the house in Oliver's name. So once she dies, he gets to live there, and he is ecstatic about this, because at the end, if you've seen the movie, you know the scene, he's like dancing through the house naked, and I'm just like, this is insane, bro. He got away with all of that. He got away with all of the murders, all of like the Farley getting kicked out, like, bro, it's so crazy. So that's how the movie ends, is with him getting the house, and everyone else is either dead or got kicked out or banned from the family or whatever. So it was so crazy. I loved this movie. This movie genuinely was very good, and I enjoyed it both times when I went to go see it, and I genuinely haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I've seen it. Now we're gonna talk about some of the scenes that I didn't talk about, and they're honorable mentions, and they're very disturbing, but we're gonna talk about them. One of the ones that I didn't talk about is the bathtub scene. Everybody should know. If you've seen it, everybody should know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to describe what happened because it is very disturbing. But sometimes I question, and I know that there is a reason for every scene that happens in a movie, but I just wish sometimes I could like talk to directors and be like, what was the like choice behind this? And for the bathtub scene, I think the reason why that was an important scene is because it shows how obsessed Oliver was with Felix. And in the, you know, at the beginning and the end of the movie, he's like, I loved Felix, but was I in love with him? No. And it's just like, that's a crazy statement, because it's just like he loved him, but he wasn't in love with him. And it's so, I don't know, it's just so interesting. Like, there's so many different perspectives and like ways that people could see this. Like, I don't know, it's so crazy. Yeah, the bathtub scene was insane. And when me and my mom went, there was not enough crowd reactions. Like, granted, there wasn't many people in there, but like me and my moms were the only one like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? And nobody else reacted. I thought it was insane. I was like, do y'all have souls? Like, what is wrong with y'all? But yeah, the bathtub scene was crazy. The scene with Oliver and Vanita in the garden with the nightgown, that was crazy. I don't really know what the purpose of that scene was. Not saying it wasn't, but I'm like, what was this for? Like, why was this a thing? But the scene with Oliver and Farley, that was crazy. It wasn't as crazy, but that was crazy too. And I think the entanglements that he had with Farley and Vanita were like almost like power plays, like him trying to remind them who has the power, almost. Like, I'm not really sure, but like that's how it kind of came off to me, especially his entanglement with Farley. What other scenes have I not talked about? I don't know why this always happens to me after I finish my videos, but I literally forgot to talk about one of the most important and maybe most disturbing scenes in Saltburn. And I haven't even started editing yet. I was just thinking about Saltburn because I literally cannot think about anything else. But one of the scenes that I did not talk about is the grave scene. You should know. If you've seen the movie, you should definitely know what I'm talking about. But oh my gosh, like I don't even know what to say about it. Like, when I went to go see it the second time with my friend Astrid, I already knew what was gonna happen, so I was just like waiting for the scene to come. And when it finally came, like, you know, he was like crying, and then like I started undressing, and she turns to me and she's like, is he gonna like the grave? And I couldn't even look at her. I literally just started laughing because I was like, it's so not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous because I know that every scene in the movie has an importance and a meaning, but it's just so shocking, and just like it takes you back because you're just like, what the actual hell am I watching? Like, so yeah, I forgot to talk about that scene along with the other ones that I talked about, but it's just, this is one of the best movies I've seen in a while. Like, this year, like, this movie is up there with Barbie for me, because I went to see Barbie I think I also saw Barbie twice, maybe 3 times, and I love that movie with all of my heart. So this one is like really up there with Barbie, like such a good movie. But yeah, so that's all. Okay, bye. I mean, like Oliver just had this like charm, and it's so dangerous. Like, you know how people say like, oh, be quiet, be careful of the quiet ones. Like, that is such a real statement. Like, you should be careful of quiet people because they don't talk because they observe people, and that is so real. People who are all about this, and it's like, yeah, like I know how to do myself, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, blah blah blah, I'll fight you. They're all bark and no bite. The people who are quiet and don't talk and observe, those are people to be afraid of. And this just is a prime example of that, because Oliver, we saw he was such an introvert and he never talked about himself. He only observed other people. And I think I love that. Like, I mean, that is a real thing that like happens to people, but I love that character personality in movies. Like, it's so good. I love it. So yeah, those are just some of the scenes that I didn't talk about because they weren't, well, in my, notes, they weren't like important to the plot. They were just extra scenes, but they still made the movie enjoyable in a way. And I love that this movie kept me on my toes. That's another thing about psychological thrillers that I love, is like they always keep you on your toes. You never know what's gonna happen. Like, each time I thought I knew what was gonna happen, I didn't. It caught me by surprise again, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is actually happening? So yeah, by the time the movie ended, my jaw was fully on the floor, and I had to, it was crazy. So getting into ratings, because I rate everything that I review, you already know what I'm gonna say. I'm rating this movie a 5 out of 5 because it was just, to me, it was perfect all the way around. Like from the cinema to the storyline to the plot to the plot twists were perfectly timed, to the people who played in it. Everybody who played their character played it so well. Everything was great. And I don't know if I've ever seen a movie by Emerald, but I might have to like look up her stuff because that was great. That was a really good movie. Like, I loved it, and I looked it up because I thought it was based on a book. It's not. It's based on an original concept. So I just am so in awe by people who come up with stuff like this, because it's crazy. I just don't understand. Like, people have really, really creative minds, and it really blows my mind. And that's why I love cinema so much, just because it's an idea that somebody thought of and it's coming to life. Like, it's just so good. I love movies so much. It's so great. So yeah, I'm giving the movie a 5 out of 5 stars, and it's great. And if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. You will not regret it. Maybe you will, but I don't think you will. Like, some of the scenes are just a little like, it's definitely, if you struggle with mental health or SH or anything like that, I would definitely look into it before, because there are some triggering things in it, but it's still a great movie. So yes, I love it. So that is my review of Saltburn. I can't say enough good things about this movie. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. That's all I have to say. Just go watch it. It's really good. Especially go watch it in theaters. That was I love going to see movies in theaters because it's such a like personal experience for me. I love going to the movie theaters. It's so good. So yep, that is all for this video. If you guys like this, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment down below of if you've seen the movie. Let me know what your opinion and rating of the movie is, and would you recommend it to people. I would just love to see other people's perspective on this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.